Namaste and good morning, everyone. We'll start our class with the opening prayers. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Now we'll chant Mahamrityunjay mantra 3 times to pray for those who are in suffering. ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकम् इव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्. ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकम् इव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्. ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकम् इव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Welcome everyone. Today is our 8th class of the Sanskrit course 2, and that brings us to halfway mark. So after today we decided to have this course also for 16 classes. Actually it becomes 32 because 16 Bhagavad Gita, but for grammar 16 classes, just like the course 1, and today is the halfway mark. So thank you and congratulations for everyone who has stayed with us and worked through the course. Today is also a very beautiful day. Today is World Sanskrit Day. So this thing was started a few years ago to celebrate Sanskrit language, its legacy, to increase its usage, to promote the learning of, and this day has been assigned, and many people celebrate this day by learning Sanskrit, some people by speaking in Sanskrit, like that. So it fell on one of our teaching days, so it's a beautiful thing. And today is also the full moon day of the month of Shravan as per the Vedic calendar, and this is considered a very auspicious day. It's also a festival in India which is called Raksha Bandhan, and on this festival sisters tie the thread, or we call it Rakhi, to their brothers, and brothers bow down to the sisters and pay them some gifts, and also an assurance to protect, because the idea was brothers being men are much strength-wise superior to the women. So and it is a day to show the respect to the women in general as well, in the spirit of brother and sister. So it's also a day very auspicious for Lord Shiva. So many people worship Lord Shiva, and in India if you go to any Shiva temple, today would be packed. It's going to be very crowded day. So it's a very good thing. Today we are also studying our Sanskrit. We are also having our Sanskrit class. So we'll start our class today. So today I want to review the Sandhi, and we have done Sandhi in the previous course quite extensively. If you remember, there were three types of Sandhis: Swara Sandhi, Visarga Sandhi, and Vyanjana Sandhi. So Swara Sandhi is the vowel Sandhi, where vowel plus vowel. So as you know that a Sanskrit word can either end in vowel, consonant, or visarga. These are the three possibilities for a word to end. Sandhi is between two sounds. So when the two sounds come close together, a Sandhi takes place as per the Sanskrit rules. In Sanskrit, because every sound is represented by a specific letter and it's 100% phonetic, you can represent the junction between two sounds in writing by writing two letters. So in other words, you can say when two letters come together, Sandhi takes place. So here we are referring to the two letters corresponding to the last letter of the first word and the first letter of the second word. That is our Sandhi. So a word can end in either vowel, consonant, or visarga. That is the final letter of the first word. Then you could have the second word starting either in vowel or consonant. It cannot start in visarga. So vowel plus vowel would be a vowel Sandhi. Visarga is either followed by vowel or consonant. It is called Visarga Sandhi. So Visarga Sandhi is very clear. It's only the consonant. So consonant Sandhi, now there are two possibilities. So consonant could have either followed by a vowel or consonant. And that would become consonant Sandhi. Now there is one combination, vowel plus consonant, that is remaining. Vowel plus consonant. In most of the cases, there is no Sandhi involved here. So they normally remain as separate words. There are certain circumstances, and one of which we will cover today, that's not common, but where the Sandhi rules can apply. But generally, there is no Sandhi, generally. No Sandhi generally. So today we'll focus more on consonant Sandhi. So I just give a quick overview of vowel and visarga Sandhi, which we did extensively in our first course. So Swara Sandhi or vowel Sandhi, if you remember, we had these different kinds of sandhi put here, and I'm pretty sure that all of you have practiced them thoroughly and are quite comfortable with it. We have done many exercises, both the custom exercises as well as the words from Gita. And the rules are very limited here, a very finite number of rules. This thing is also available in a flow chart, and all these things are available in the repository. This presentation is available in the repository on Sanskrit 01 course. Then similarly, we have the Visarga Sandhi rules. So these are also, we did quite extensively. And there is also a flow chart for the Visarga Sandhi. So you can go through it if you are uncomfortable, but if you have been doing the exercises, I'm pretty sure that you will not have any difficulty in these sandhis. By now you would have been pretty comfortable if you have been doing the exercises. We did a lot of lessons and exercises related to sandhi. And for any sandhi, the knowledge of alphabet is critical, as you can imagine. And if you have not seen the alphabet file latest, just download the latest file. There may be a couple of changes here and there, but this is the alphabet of Sanskrit. And to know that which ones are voiced consonants, which ones are aspirated, all these things are put in here in a little bit more detail. So for consonant sandhi, which we'll discuss in more detail today, we did that. And what we did not do consonant sandhi, we did not take all the rules in one class, like swara, like vowel and visarga sandhi, but we did them in different classes. And today I intend to do that as in one class. It will be a revision as well. And if there are any questions, you could ask. There is also a concept called pragrohya sandhi, which we did not discuss much. Pragrohya sandhi simply means a sandhi is supposed to take place, but it does not take place because of some particular combinations. And we'll see what are those cases in which normally you would expect a sandhi to take place as per the regular rules, but does not take place. So pragrohya sandhi is simply absence of sandhi which otherwise should have been there. So the name has been given pragrohya. Then anuswara sandhi, we discussed that when does anuswara takes place, and I'll just tell you a little bit more on that. These are today's topic. Like last time, I'm taking from this book Sanskrit Subodhini, so that the reason I'm now trying to follow the book closely, because you have a textbook and you can always refer to it and connect with what I'm teaching to what is in the book. So pragrohya sandhi is mentioned in lesson 9. Vyanjana sandhi or the consonant sandhi is mentioned in lesson 13, and anuswara sandhi is mentioned in lesson 3 of the Sanskrit Subodhini. So quickly, I just want to tell you the pragrohya sandhi, because that is very simple and there are only a few cases where sandhi doesn't happen. So main thing to remember here, it's not a special Sandhi rule, but it's a rule where you would expect the Sandhi to take place, but it does not. So one of the common rules here is that long ikara, let me see if I want to increase the, long ikara, ukara and ekara, they do not change if they occur end of the dual forms. So only when they occur at the end of dual forms. What do I mean by end of dual forms? So if you remember the nominal declensions, we have like 1a. This is a dual form ending in a. Vanam, vane, vanani. Similarly, we have Gita, Gite. The dual form here is ending in ekara. So these two dual forms ending in ekara. Similarly, we have Hari. So Hari, Hari. This dual form is ending in ikara. Like that. Kirti, Kirti. This dual form is ending in ikara. So in those cases. So long e, u, and a, they do not change if they occur at the end of dual forms of nouns or verbs, even for the verbs. So labhate, labhete, labhante. If you remember, for the verbs also we have certain cases where I have to get the verb table, but for the verbs also we have these cases where these letters can come at the end of dual forms. So some examples here. Muni atra. So I told you, harihi, hari, harayaha, munihi, muni, munayaha. Two munis, two sages. So muni atra. Normally what will you do here? Muni atra, you will make a sandhi. You will use our rule for vowel sandhi. So what rule you would use? You would say nyan sandhi, ikara or short or long followed by a vowel becomes yakara. That's what normally you would do. But here the rule says that because this long ikara is at the end of a dual form, do not make the sandhi. So just leave the word as it is. Muni atra. Dhenu iti. Similarly, here we have dhenu means two cows. So dhenu iti. This also would be the yan sandhi otherwise, but we will not do because it's a dual form. So this is one rule. Another rule here is the final vowels of interjections like a, he, aho remain unchanged. So like we say, hey Rama. Here anyway the sandhi will not take place. But something like hey Akasha, the sandhi could take place. So again, if you remember the vowel ayadi sandhi, it will take place normally. But because it's the vowel which will change is belongs to these interjections, it will not take place. If it is previous to that, then its vowel is not changing, it can take place. But after the he, the ekara of he should not undergo change. That is the idea. That is the rule here. So there are a few more cases. It is not very common to have this sandhi, but it can occur at some places. So just to let you know, in Bhagavad Gita, whole Bhagavad Gita, I found only one instance. There may be some more, but I checked and I could only locate one where this sandhi has taken place, or this lack of sandhi, you can say, pragruhya sandhi. So the word here is vidhyanadi ubhavapi. This e and u. So anadi is a word, masculine word like muni. So anadi, dual case, and ubhav api. So here the words are ubhav api. And you know that ubhav api will sandhi take place, a becomes av, as per the ayadi sandhi rule. A becomes au become, so au becomes av when it is followed by a vowel. So ubhav becomes ubhavapi. So here the sandhi is taking place, but between these two, which otherwise would have taken place, is not taking place. So anadi, it is in dual. It is saying that prakrutim purusham chaiva vidyanadi ubhavapi. Know both prakriti and purusha as beginningless. So just one example, as I told you, I found, and this is the example from Gita. So not very common, but I just wanted to bring to your attention. Then Vyanjana Sandhi, or the consonant. So consonant Sandhi rules, in the last time, as I told you, that we did not do all in like one class, in one setting. In the Sanskrit Subodhini book, in lesson 13, they are given in one place. So it's a little bit easier to refer to. It's difficult to form a chart for consonant Sandhi because of the amount of variations involved. Yet you can kind of put all the rules which are more frequent rules together. Remember, these are not all the Sandhi rules. I told you that we are covering maybe only 20 to 25%, but the area we are covering, like in which Sandhi application is seen, that is more than 90% or 95%. And that's what your experience must have been if you went through the exercises and also through Gita verses, that we can identify most of the Sandhis in the vowel and Visarga Sandhi. So our idea is to take those common rules and not burden you with all the rare kind of occurrences. Like Pragriya Sandhi we covered because it was mentioned in the book, but in the course one I left out, you can see in the whole Bhagavad Gita one instance of Pragriya Sandhi. Then consonant Sandhi rules. So again, these are the important consonant Sandhi rules. They are not exhaustive, but they should hold us in good stead when we are going through the text. That's the idea. And as and when if we come across a very special situation, we'll explain that. So a unvoiced stop changes to voiced stop before a voiced consonant or a vowel. What does that mean? Unvoiced stop changes into a voiced stop. So for that you have to look at the alphabet, and you see these are the 5 by 5 matrix. We have discussed it many times. 5 by 5 matrix of the consonants, and then we have 8 more consonants. So this 5 by 5 matrix, this tells you that what is the place of pronunciation and whether a consonant is voiced, aspirated, or what is the status. So it's extremely scientifically oriented, very well organized alphabet. When it says voiced stop, unvoiced stop changes into a voiced stop. Essentially what it means in practice, that unvoiced, so these are the unvoiced, and these are all the voiced. And these matrix is called 5 by 5 is the stops. So because we know that the word in Sanskrit does not end with the second, so when we refer to this 5 by 5 matrix, we refer them both vertically as well as horizontally. So horizontally, when I refer to, I say the K group or Kavarga, Ka group, Chavarga, Tavarga, Ta group. That means when I say Tavarga or Ta group, it means these 5 consonants. Similarly, here I can say first letter, second letter group, third letter group, fourth letter group, fifth letter group. So just to be very familiar with this matrix, and then Sandhi rules would become much more easier to comprehend. So if I could, because this one will not occur at the end of the word, the second column letter, as per the Sanskrit rules, it does not occur at the end of the word, or the fourth column also does not occur at the end of the word. So first and third. So essentially, I can write this rule, in other words, that first column letter changes to third column letter. Before a voiced consonant or a vowel. So I can rephrase this rule for all practical purposes, and that's what it is. So that becomes a bit easier. That this is a bit technical language, and this is something that's what it can be understood as translated into. First column letter changes to third column letter before a voiced consonant. So look at the examples here. Vrukchat apatat. Here takara is the first column consonant and akara is a vowel. So it becomes dakara. Vrukchat apatat. So vrukchat is the fifth case, as you know, like Rama Ramat, Vrukshaha Vrukchat. So from the tree fell. Apatat is the fell. So something fell down from the tree. Vrukchat apatat. That's how the sandhi will happen. Gramat vanam. Gramat is again takara is the first letter, first column letter, and vakara is the voiced consonant. So vakara is the voiced consonant, as you can see. So here it becomes third, it changes into third column letter, which is dakara for takara. So gramat vanam. Gramat is the fifth case. So from the village, grama means village, from the village to the forest. Vanam means forest. So that's what it means, from the village to the forest. Then the second rule says voiced stop changes to unvoiced stop before an unvoiced consonant. So again, we can really translate that rule for our easier understanding is this way, that third column letter changes to first column letter before a unvoiced consonant, before an unvoiced consonant. Vowel is always voiced, so that doesn't apply here. So third column letter changes to first column letter. So it's very simple, as you can see. Now the rule are very easy to understand. If it is first column letter will change to third column letter when it is followed by a voiced consonant or vowel, and third column letter will change to first column letter. So tad kamalam becomes tat kamalam, that lotus. Etad sarvada, always this. Etat sarvada, this always. So dakara becomes takara because sakara is a unvoiced consonant. So here if you go, so this is unvoiced, sakara is unvoiced. So just to make sure that you have the latest copy which is in the repository for the alphabet, I'll also show you some examples from Gita. There are of course plenty. This is a very common occurrence. So there are many examples. So 2.63, I'll just take some. So can you see which one is the, can you guess which one is the sandhi is happening here? 263. So krodhat bhavati, the very first word. You see it's a krodhat, fifth case, like ramat. So krodhat, because bakara or bhakara in this case is a voiced consonant. So bhakara is a voiced consonant, this one. That's why it changes to dakara, the third column letter. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. Similarly here, usmruti bhranshad buddhinashah. I just put the space here for easier comprehension, but otherwise normally in the text you will find the single word here. Smruti bhranshad buddhinashah. And here it does not change. Buddhinashat pranashyati, because pakara happens to be the unvoiced consonant. So it remains takara. And 1512, if you look at 1512, another example. So here you see, if you can find out. So tat tejo. Tat tejo. That is tad. Like if you remember in this, it's a compound word. And tat tejo vidhi mamakam. So tad becomes tat because it is followed by a unvoiced consonant. Same reason why we became tat purusha. Even though we had tad plus purusha, I explained in one of the classes earlier, the samasa name becomes tat purusha. So these are the two rules. Then another rule is here. Initial shakara changes to chakara, optionally if preceded by a dental or stop or nasal exam. Nasal. So fifth column letters are called nasals because you need a nasal sound to pronounce them, like nya, na, na, ma. These are called the nasals. So here it says tat shamshati. It becomes tat shamsati. So two changes take place. Takara becomes chakara and this shakara becomes chakara. So this is a special case that the previous letter as well as the following letter both of them become different. This becomes shakara and this becomes chakara. It also happens fairly common sandhi. So tat shamsati. Similarly, this is also dental tan shamshati. Here it does not become, this becomes the, so remember this sandhi I had told you, where this sandhi rule in class 3 we discussed in this course itself. The dental letters change into the corresponding palatal letters when immediately before or after of any of the above mentioned palatal letters. So let me just reduce the view here so that you can potentially see the whole thing. So dental letters change into the corresponding, so this two kind of changes take place. Dental letters change into the corresponding palatal letters when in the vicinity of these letters, and they change into the cerebral letters. This is tavarga, when in the vicinity of any of the above mentioned cerebral letters. So we discussed this in the class 3. So I will not go in too much detail, but I just wanted to point you out that Sat Chit, here you can see Takara becomes Chakara because it is as per this rule. This is a very common rule and it does appear in a lot of places. So because of this rule, also kind of you can see it's happening here, Nakara becomes Nyakara. And then this Shakara of course changes into Chakara. Tan Chansati. It also says optional, but I have put the red mark on optional because this optional things hardly ever is found in the text. The book also says it's rare in texts. So you just understand it's optional, but for all practical purposes, practice this. This is what you will find generally in the books. So an example in Gita for 2.7, we also covered this in Gita class already, this verse 2.7. So I hope you can see here, Yat Shreyaha. So this is Yat Shreyaha. Yat Shreyaha. That is the word here. So Yat Shreyaha. Yat Shreyaha becomes Yat Shreyaha. Takara becomes Shakara and Shakara becomes Chakara. So two things are happening here. One is happening as per the rule I told you in the previous class, class 3, and the other is this rule that initial shab changes into Chakara. Similarly, this one, fourth and fifth, they are the same as I just told you in class 3. So dental consonant changes to the corresponding retroflex consonant before a retroflex consonant. So I put it in this way, whichever way you understand better with the text. So dental letters change into the corresponding cerebral letters. It's also called retroflex letters, cerebral, when in the vicinity of any of the above mentioned cerebral letters. So whichever way you find Tatika, Takara changes into Takara, Nakara changes into Nakara, Chakrin Dhokase, Tatika, that commentary. So this is the rule number 4 and 5. So tat tika here, tad damaruhu, or gramat cha, it becomes gramat cha. Same rule is gramat jayate. So once you understand this, remember in Eugene's book, he had given you a table that takara undergoes this change, and that becomes a little bit more overwhelming to think that I have to memorize for each combination. But if you understand the general rule, and then you can see how it is being applicable to takara. Then another rule here is dental stop changes into lakara before lakara. So tad labhate, he attains that. So it becomes tal labhate. Dental stop is the kara, is a dental stop. If you notice here in our sandhi, so this is dental. The kara is a dental stop. It becomes lakara, tal labhate. Gramat lokah, gramal lokah. Now another thing which happens is specifically for nakara. So even though nakara is also dental, but for nakara especially, there is a special rule, tan labhate. So if nakara comes before lakara, it changes into this letter which you may not have noticed earlier. It's called chandrabindu, or nasalized sound. So lakara becomes nasalized. So nakara changes into nasalized lakara. Tan labhate, it becomes nasalized. Like if you pronounce the sound of lakara in a nasalized manner, that's this sound comes. Tan labhate. Devan lokah. I think this is copy and paste problem. So Devan lokah. I saw in Bhagavad Gita there is one example, 439. So Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. You see here, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. This is not a very common thing in Sanskrit, so sometimes the standards show a little differently, transcript like in different texts. Sometimes they will show with Y and this Chandrabindu mark. This is called Chandrabindu because Chandrabindu means dot over the moon, literally. So this is like a half moon and then there is a dot over it. So that's the sign here. If you look at it, looks like as if a dot over the moon, half moon. So Shraddhavan labhate, that's how it becomes. So nakara becomes nasalized lakara. Then another is stop to become corresponding nasal sound before nasal, optionally. So that is tad na, tan na, vak mama, bang mama. What does that mean is, kakara, if you look at it here, it is the sound from the throat. It's a throat sound, kakara. And it's occurring before makara, which is a labial sound. But it's a nasal sound. So it can come before any of the nasal sound, and the rule is saying that it changes into the corresponding nasal. So kakara will change into nakara, the throat nasal sound, before any of the nasals if it comes. So here, even though kakara is coming before makara, which is nasal sound of labial, it will change into own corresponding nasal sound. Vang mama. Similarly, tad mitram. Now dakara is the dental sound and it will change into the corresponding nasal, which is nakara. Tan mitram. Again, these optional I have marked red. They are for the sake of possibility, it is available, but normally it is not used. It's rare. So you don't have to spend a lot of time on understanding the optional forms here. Just understand the main forms. So in Gita 5.1, if you look at tan me, so it is tat me. So tat me becomes tan me. To me, you tell that to me. Then this is another one. And remember, all of them have been covered in different classes or in different exercises in the course 1 and the previous course 2 exercises. So if you have been doing exercises, this should just come to you as a revision. Hakara before a stop is replaced by corresponding voiced aspirated stop, optionally. So again, here the optional text is very rare. So again, as a possibility, you know that it's optional, but generally we will practice the main combinations. So what does that mean is tad hi, tad hi. So this hakara will change into the fourth letter. So corresponding voice to aspirated stop means fourth letter, fourth column letter. That's what it means. Sorry. Fourth column letter. That's what you can just understand. That hakara will change into the corresponding fourth letter column. So in case dakara, it changes into dhakara. In case of kakara, it changes into ghakara. It is baghi. So it changes into ghakara because it is kakara here. So it's corresponding fourth column letter. If you look at in Gita 6.4.2, so here etadhi, etadhi. So this word is actually etadhi. So it becomes etadhi. It's actually etadhi, etadhi. Even etadhi will change like that only. It will come with the two rules. First, the takara will change into the voiced consonant, the third column consonant, because it's a voiced consonant, and then it will change the hakara into the fourth column letter. So etadhi. Again, optional text is rare here, so not to worry too much about it. When we are going through the rules like that, it may seem like a lot, and that's one reason I just want to give you this as more as a reference rather than memorization. If you, as I told you, if you would have been practicing the exercises, this all would just be refreshing the memory. You would already know. And sometimes, even though you may not know the rules, exact rules which is coming into place, intuitively you know that this is the right sandhi or this is the right split. So here it is saying that final nakara and nakara are doubled after a short vowel or before any vowel. So this is kind of a little bit confusing language. And if you simplify it, because these two letters hardly ever come in Sanskrit at the end of the word. Nakara is the main thing. So we can just simplify this rule saying final nakara of a word is doubled when preceded by a short vowel and followed by any vowel. That's a simple rule. So apatan iha. So final nakara, it is preceded by short akara and followed by another vowel ikara. So it becomes doubled. Apatan niha. Apatan means they fall here. They fell here. Agachan akasham. So this vowel could be long or short, it doesn't matter. The following vowel. The preceding vowel, previous one, it has to be short. Akara. That is the condition. So agachan akasham, went to the sky. Final nakara before an unvoiced dental, palatal or retroflex stop is replaced by an anuswara plus a sibilant home organic with the stop. So home organic means the two consonants which are pronounced from the same place. So for example, here all these are called home organic because they are all pronounced from the throat. Also the hakara will be considered home organic. Similarly, chakara, chakara, shakara and yakara and shakara, they are all called home organic because they are pronounced all from the lower palate, like that. And he's saying sibilant. So these three letters are called sibilant. Shakara, all the three sas. Shakara, shakara, sakara. So what he is saying is final nakara before an unvoiced dental, palatal or retroflex stop. That means you can say first column letter. First or second column letter because those are the unvoiced. First, second column letter is replaced by then anuswara. So when nakara, so it's followed by takara, which is the first column letter. Devans tatra. So nakara changes into anuswara. This is anuswara, as you know. And so it changes into this anuswara plus sibilant home organic with the stop. So as I told you, sibilant home organic with the stop means for takara, this is the we have to see sibilant home organic. So for takara, the home organic is sakara and that is the sibilant because these are the three sibilant letters. So it changes into sakara. So that's what rule means. So if you understand the alphabet properly, the wording may seem like a bit terrifying here, but it's pretty simple and straightforward. So I'll show you one example. Similarly, Devanscha. So here it becomes Shakara because it is followed by Chakara. And if you look at in the alphabet, Chakara is palatal and it is Shakara, which is the corresponding home organic sibilant. So one example I'll show you from Gita 1.26. So you see here words Sakhins Tatha and also the friends. Sakhi means friend. Sakhins Tatha. So this is actually the word is Sakhin plus Tatha becomes Sakhins Tatha. I provided hyphen just for sake of easier comprehension. But Sakhin plus Tatha is Sakhims Tatha. So just remember this one. Then we have this rule, final refa, and he is saying original or derived from Visarga. Don't worry about that part yet. We'll see later. Is deleted before an initial refa. So what essentially it means is that two refa cannot come together in Sanskrit. Essentially that's what it means. If two refa coming together, the first one is dropped and its vowel is lengthened. So punarramaha. So two refa coming together, this one is dropped and the akara here becomes long. Punaramaha, like that. It's not a very common occurrence. As I told you, some of these sandhi rules are not very commonly, but just for the sake of understanding that it can happen, we are covering those. Similarly, mati ramaha, matihi ramaha. So here, even though it's a matihi ramaha, what essentially is happening in Sanskrit, that this thing, before it came for Visarga, it was matir. And that's what he means, original or derived from a Visarga. So as per the Sanskrit rule, before it became Visarga, it was matir. And because of that, it becomes like that. So before it becomes, so Sanskrit has a certain sequence in which Panini rules have to be applied. Even though one of the things we are facing all these challenges because we cannot study directly through the Panini rules, it requires a little bit preparation. But Panini has described beautifully that how the rules come into place and the sequence. So when the sequence comes into this, Matir Ramaha, Panini says this should become Visarga. So it becomes Matihi. But then he specified that before it becoming Visarga, if it is followed by Refa, then drop this Refa, first one, and elongate it. So then it never becomes a Visarga. So that's what he means, original or derived from a Visarga. So just understand that every Visarga was Refa before it became a Visarga. That's the idea here. So a Visarga was a Refa before it became a Visarga. This is not common, not very common. And this one is also not very common rule. We have discussed it also. So this is word ending in short vowel is followed by chakara or chakara. This is a very special rule only for chakara, one consonant. A chakara is inserted between the two. So kavi chhatraha. So here it's ending in a short consonant, short vowel, sorry, kavi, and followed by chakara. A chakara comes in between. Kavit chhatra. Lakshmi chhaya. Lakshmi plus chhaya. So Lakshmi chhaya. This is optional. When the previous consonant is long, then inserting is optional. But when previous vowel is short, then inserting is mandatory. That's the idea here. This is, again, as I told you, it's not very common. It's generally found in samasas, not between the, so when two words come together in a samasa, then this kind of sandhi can take place. But generally, otherwise in text, it's not very common. So kavi means poet, chhatra means, so both of these are example of compound words here, samasa. Kavi, chhatra, one who is kavi as well as chhatra. So poet, kavi is poet and chhatra is a student. So a student poet. It's a two nouns, it's a karma dharaya samasa coming together. He is kavi or as well as he is chhatra. He is a poet as well as a student. So kavi chhatra. Lakshmi chhaya. Chhaya means shadow. Lakshmi is the name of the, either you can say a woman or Mother Lakshmi. So Lakshmi chhaya means shadow of Lakshmi. It's a sixth Tatpurusha samasa. Sixth case. Tatpurusha samasa. Lakshmi chhaya. So I hope if you have been doing this did not feel like overwhelming, but if you did not, but not doing the exercises, this could feel overwhelming. I can understand that. So with this, I want to give you a little bit classwork and I'll answer the questions on the chat window. Classwork is today is this. Please study these page numbers from Sanskrit Subodhini books and you can send your questions through chat window. Or you can also try, if you like, to solve the first 3 sentences of exercise 2 on page 111. So here it is right after splitting the sandhi. That is the, if you want to do exercise, you don't have to submit it because it will be a part of the home exercise when we cover the lesson 13. You can just ask any questions if you have as a result of trying to solve these exercises. Okay. So with this, right now it is 10:03. We'll gather again around in 8-9 minutes or so. So I'll mute my mic. Thank you. Welcome everyone. If you have any questions, you can ask in the chat window. There was a comment here that there was a mistake here. Tan labhate devan lokaha. So it should be same way here. So we can, so some devan lokaha. So So I'll correct that in the notes, but you get the idea that lakara becomes nasalized. That's the main thing. Then anuswara sandhi. And anuswara sandhi is given in the lesson 3 of Sanskrit Subodhini, this book. So here, you know that there is a rule that if a word ends in makara and has next word is a consonant, then makara becomes anuswara. So for example, if I have a word Ramam Gachati, so you see here makara is followed by a consonant, so it should be written as it becomes anuswara Ramam Gachati. That's how it becomes. So we know this thing, have done many times, this anuswara Ramam Gachati. So no matter what the consonant is, this rule is very simple. If the following letter is a consonant, the previous makara change into an Anuswara. Very, very simple. But there is an optional here further. So after it changes to Anuswara, then there is another option. And that option is that Anuswara can further change. And this Anuswara can change into the corresponding nasal of this group. So Gakara is in the throat group. We pronounce it through the throat. If you look at Gakara, this is the one. Ka, kha, ga, gha, ga, guttural throat group. So nasal of throat group is Ang. And this is, it changes into this. Anuswara will change into the nasal of the following letter. So instead of Anuswara, we can have Ramang Gachati. This is the another possibility after the Anuswara can happen. So Ramang Gachati, it becomes like this. So originally it was Ramam, then Anuswara. Anuswara then can change into the nasal of the following letter. In the text, for example, if you study Gita, because I told you this is optional, this does not occur very frequently. Like if you take Ramayana or modern printing, my guess is, I haven't checked, but my guess is in the older manuscripts, this option was apparently quite common, that people would use this kind of thing, Ramang Gachati. So if you look at the same thing and say, instead of Ramam Gachati, we have Ramam Tarati, Rama crosses, Ramam Tarati. So Ramam Tarati. So it becomes, first it will change into Anuswara, Ramam Tarati. And then optionally, it can change it into corresponding nasal of Takara. So what is the corresponding nasal of Takara? What is the corresponding sound? So Takara is in the dental group, Nakara is the sound. So Raman Tarati. It becomes like this, Raman Tarati. So this is called Anuswara Sandhi, where Anuswara can further go one more Sandhi. Even though this is optional, in Sanskrit Subodhini book, in the exercises, he has given the exercises where this Sandhi is coming into play. So you should be familiar with this Sandhi so that you can solve those exercises. But just to understand that in the generally, at least in the modern printed texts, this one is far more common, that Anuswara doesn't undergo change. It remains at this stage. But in Vedas, if you look at the mantras, some of the mantras will be put in this format. And one of the very common example is our Mahamrityunjaya mantra. So we chant Trayambakam Yajamahe, and sometimes you might have seen the sound is Trayambakam Yajamahe, like this. Yakara becomes nasalized. It is the same rule which is applying here. So if it is so we have the corresponding nasal sounds for these 5 groups. But then for this Yakara, Refa does not have any nasal sound, but Yakara, Lakara and Vakara, this Yakara, Lakara and Vakara, these 3 letters, they have their own nasalized sound, nya, la, va, like that. So if they are the followed ones, then it can change into the corresponding nasal sounds of those letters. Not common, but it happens. And here in the this mantra, the proper pronunciation is actually Trambakam Yajamahe, the nasalized sound. So in Vedas you cannot change it. So if you look at here, what will be our sandhi here would be, so it's actually three sandhis. So three ambakam yajamahe. So yajamahe, if you remember from our exercises on the verbs, it's a first person plural. That means we worship. Yaj means to worship. We worship. Three means three, and ambakam means eyes, three-eyed. So this is a samasa, trayambakam. So we worship three-eyed Lord. That means Lord Shiva. Incidentally, today I told you today is a very auspicious day for Lord Shiva's worship. So trayambakam yajamahe. That's how normally it's pronounced. So how does it become? If you take this, then we can change into, this will change into Yan Sandhi, and so first it becomes an Anuswara. Makara becomes Anuswara. Trayambakam yajamahe. And next step will become Trayambakam yajamahe, like this. So if you look at the proper chanting of this mantra, generally you will find Trayambakam yajamahe, and that's how it's coming. Before nasalized yakara, this becomes the Anuswara becomes nasalized yakara in this case. As I told you in the text, it's not common, particularly text like Gita, Ramayana, Mahabharata, modern printed text, it's not common. But in our exercises in the book, it is given, so just be familiar with this sandhi. Let me just see any comments there. So there is a question here, do we have class next Monday, because Mother's Ashram is having puja on occasion of Baba's birthday and would like to participate? Yes, the class will take place on the coming Monday. If for some reason some of you are not able to attend to the class, you can watch the video and take the make the notes. We are planning to have the class as scheduled for next Monday. So there is a question, can you show us how the nasalized lakara is pronounced? I already did that in the Vyanjana Sandhi, tan labhate. So like here we have nasalized lakara. Where is it gone? So if it were without nasalized here, then it would be tal labhate. But because it's nasalized, it's tan labhate, like it becomes nasalized. You just make the sound along with nose. That's what nasalized means. So pronounced lakara, and also along with the mouth, also the nose. Use the nose. Okay, so these are the questions, and I will just go through some of the comments and questions I received from the class, from the emails. So some of the things I received was related to translation. So first of all, I want to congratulate and thank you those who are attempting the exercises, because that will improve your learning significantly. And all of you who are doing the exercises must have noticed, and I'm seeing the comments of appreciation from those of you who are doing the exercise, that how their learning has improved tremendously. So some comments regarding the translation, some questions. So for example, one of the translation exercise was Nrupasya dasas tam munim apashyat. And I told you that when it is tam munim, means it means that sage, he saw that sage. So the translation we had is a servant of king saw the sage. Literally it would mean saw that sage. Now in English, when it's a part of the context, you see that what makes more sense to say that sage or the sage. Generally you will find that it will be the sage, because it's very clear to which sage we are talking about. So even though the literally it would be like to that sage, in English, to me, it still seems like as a flow of the story, because now we can have some context here. It's a part of the story. You would normally say a servant of the king saw the sage. So that's where we did not put that sage instead of, because context will determine how English translation should be done. So translation can never be perfect. Remember always, particularly between two languages as diverse as English and Sanskrit, it's extremely difficult to have a very, very accurate translation. It's not a surprise that why do we have hundreds of translations of Bhagavad Gita, and you will find some minor differences here and there. The reason is that these two languages are quite different, and there is a possibility, and Sanskrit is a very, very flexible language in the sense that one word can have many meanings. The way the words are used in different contexts, it can imply different meanings. English has its own variety and the different ways to express the things, which Sanskrit has very differently. So just see that how does it make sense without compromising the meaning of the sentence, and you can translate accordingly. Similarly, there was a concern here, munim prati agachat, sadaso munim prati agachat. The servant went to the sage. Now I had mentioned in the class, prati agachat means normally went towards. So you could say went towards the sage. The same rule apply here. In English, when somebody is going to another person, you normally say he goes to him. But in Sanskrit, when you go to a person, you normally use the word prati. And the reason is this. In Sanskrit, when you say like he goes to school is a location, and you do not use this kind of word like prati. But when you approach a person in Sanskrit, person is not a location. So you normally use the word kind of prati to indicate that you are approaching, you are going towards that person. But in English, we use the two. So servant went to the sage, servant went to the school, servant went to the city. It is all two. We use the two words only when somebody is going towards somebody, not necessarily to that person. So in English, that's where just see that what translation would make the most sense and use the word accordingly without compromising the meaning of the origin. So another thing I would like to tell you is that always listen. I am always including the link where the author himself has spoken the exercises. So please listen to those exercises. That will help you that how Sanskrit is pronounced, and you should be able to eventually understand by just listening the Sanskrit, even if you don't have the text. So those are quite good pronunciation because author himself has done it. And in all the exercises, we are putting the link for audio of the exercises. So please listen to those exercises when you are attempting the exercises. There is another questions, lot of questions related to lot and vidhiling, like whether I should use would, should, and what not. the thing is this: in Sanskrit, lot and vidhiling have a different connotation than generally what you would have in English for would, should, and there is a lot of overlap between lot and vidhiling, almost like to the extent they can be used interchangeably. And the way they are used is it's very flexible. So just see the context, and maybe in one of the class I can cover in more detail what are the different scenarios traditionally in which lot and vidhiling are used. But just to see that what would make sense, it could be would, it could be might, it could be should, may, like these are the words for vidhiling, and lot is generally either request or command. So please come here or you come here, like that. So just use whatever the context. And now many of the exercises, they are becoming a paragraph kind of thing, so that can help you to determine the context rather than individual sentences, which is difficult to determine the context. So I also received a lot of comments of appreciation of people who are telling that their learning has improved tremendously after they have been going through these classes. So we don't have time today, but I would like to share those comments with you probably in the next class. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you that I'm happy that you are able to see the difference in your learning. And people who are chanting, who are in the habit of chanting some Sanskrit text, they are saying that they can easily see now where the different sandhis are taking place, where what the different meanings could be of the words. So that's a very good thing. And if any of you are not experiencing that thing, you please write to us. We are here to help you. If you have any questions, if you are not able to understand something, please write to us and we will try to help you out if you are not able to understand some concepts. So with this, I would just tell you that we will post the two exercises for the lesson and for the lessons 10 and 11. And again, 10 and 11 from Sanskrit Subodhini, they are pretty much everything what we had covered in the last course. So this is more of a revision. We will not have the exercise for today's class actually. I mean, for content we covered today. Reason is that content which we covered today is covered in lesson 13 of Eugene's book, not Eugene's, the Sanskrit Subodhini book, and we would probably have in the next time that exercise is taken care of. So today's exercise will be more on the verbs from the lesson 10 and 11 from Sanskrit 10 and 11 from Sanskrit Subodhini. So we'll post those exercises. With this, again, I want to remind you, today is the Word Sanskrit Day, and we will close the class with the prayers. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you all.